afternoon. My name's John with the Pine Tree. I have the great pleasure of being here with Darren Spellman.
Thanks, John.
Now, you are running for District 5 Supervisor, correct?
Correct.
Now, for people who don't know you, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, what would you like to know first?
Well, what draws you to the race? What drove you to run?
There were some individuals within my community in Rancho Calaveras that were extremely unhappy with the current supervisor, so that's what initially brought me into the race.
Okay. So you've been following along the whole Valley Springs plan issue. So was that kind of one of the impetus things that drove you to run? It was
initially, and I've been asked since then on the February 23rd vote, which took place at Valley Springs Elementary, which was overwhelmingly voted for at 83%. Other people said they wanted Rancho to stay out of the plan. At that point, some people asked me, is your campaign over? I mean, that being the catalyst for the beginning. But my response to that was that, of course, if I was going to run a valid campaign, I had to make sure that I knew about all the issues that I could. So in the process of that, meeting with people in Copperopolis, I found that they had a whole laundry list of issues, separate and distinct from the ones that we have in Valley Springs area of District 5. However, they have plenty of things that they'd like to have addressed as well. So
now, for people, say in other parts of the county, what are exactly the boundaries of District 5? That's one of the has the most unusual parameters, I would say, for any supervisor districts, right?
So absolutely.
What does it actually encompass?
District 5 on the south starts in Lake Tulloch area, county border there with Lake Tulloch and Maloney's Copper area, and then it goes all the way to the north into Valley Springs. Most people are familiar with where Vista del Lago is, near the entrance site, La Cantena.
So that's kind of
pretty much. Okay. And just a little bit off there from Vista del Lago, but anything that's considered Rancho Calaveras property, and then it swings down south from there. So.
Now, for your district, what do you see the hot buttons for this campaign? I think for going forward, what do you see the hot buttons for your district?
Well, a lot of hot buttons for my district are in the realm of development. I know there's a lot of people that are unsatisfied with what they have to choose from in terms of being able to purchase things.
Okay.
Myself, my wife and I have 2 children. My daughter is an 8th grader at Toyon, and my son is a 1st grader at Jenny Land Elementary. And the fact of the matter is, I can't buy a pair of pants for my kid anywhere in this county, with the exception of the country store in Angels. And my kids do have a pair of Wranglers.
There you go.
So, but there has to be some diversity. And some people are for or against big box developments or these type of things. And I don't really have a preference so much as to just something needs to be done in terms of ability for people to purchase things they need. And again, that comes back to also tax revenue. We see issues right now with the school system not having enough money to take care of things. County budgets are supposed to be cut 17.5% across the board. Means we're going to lose sheriff's officers, et cetera, et cetera. And that doesn't set very well with me. Since just this last week, we had a smash and grab robbery at the pharmacy near La Cantena. We had an attempted kidnapping on Park Vixen. There's a lot of things that are going on, and I don't think that having less officers on duty is the answer. I think we could use more.
So in the upcoming budget season, for example, would your recommendations be more of a targeted approach? I mean, maybe prioritize justice and law enforcement over some of the other departments?
Well, I think that the tag word that gets used most often, and I agree with that, is the essential services. There are some things that have to happen. I mean, you have to have law enforcement. You have to have teachers. You have to have fire protection. Those things are basic needs of the community, not wants, but needs. So if that means that other places have to tighten the belt a little bit, and we need to look at everything that's possible in the budget to make sure that this gets taken care of. It's a priority.
I guess a little background on yourself. I mean, what if people are getting to know you a little bit? What's your background?
Most people that know me already before the campaign were probably people that are either students currently or maybe their parents of students that had me or grandparents. Initially, those were some of the people that came to me that said, hey, my son or daughter had you as a teacher at Calaveras High. My grandkids had you at Calaveras High, that type of thing. They knew that I was involved in the community through the school and through church and other things like that. And they knew me to be an honest person with a good reputation. And they wanted someone to run against the current supervisor.
Right.
So they asked me if I would do that, and I said I would.
Very cool. Now, Eric, one of the buzzwords is, and some of this campaign is going to be jobs, job creation. You tied into a little bit up with maybe some retail enhancements for the area. What other issues you think that, as a supervisor, for setting the tone for, what can we do to help the economic situation in Calaveras?
Well, I've got a lot of really great ideas, but I hate to put too many of them out there because at times I feel like some of the other candidates, most particularly some of the ones that are running against me for my district, have a tendency to steal ideas and parrot them as their own. I've seen a trend that way, but I can tell you the three main areas of focus. Number one would be to quit with the front loading. And for those people that aren't familiar with that term, that's where the county tries to get all the fees up front for infrastructure, things that they need, instead of letting it go over time, kind of space those payments out. I talked to an individual who had an interest in maybe putting a movie theater in Valley Springs, which I think would be fantastic. The front load fees for that, for the road mitigation fees, are $170,000 per screen. So if this person wanted to put in a 10-screen theater, they'd have to upfront $1.7 million just for road mitigation fees, not including all the other things. So you can see where that would be highly cost prohibitive. The Village Terrace Center there was some, I think, Strings Italian restaurant and some other stuff wanted to go in there. They ended up putting one over in Jackson because CCWD wanted $150,000. I think it was between CCWD and the county, $150,000 front load fees for the water hookup and other things like that. And I think that those type of measures are cost prohibitive. The county, I think, approaches those with the idea that people are going to want to put businesses here so badly that they're willing to put this huge chunk of money out up front, which in an economy like it is right now, while those tactics may have worked in the past, which I would argue that they didn't even in the past, but right now it's even worse way to run business. So.
So I mean, even that's come to the forefront even in other districts. For example, like the District 3 race, I'm sure the Bear Valley stuff's going to be an issue in that. So you'd say maybe put those as a back end or an as-you-go piece rather than a front-loading piece on that.
I mean, usually the way they're done when you're talking about non-commercial, not homeowners or things like that, they'll often float it where you pay a certain percentage up front when you break ground, a certain percentage when you close, and then maybe the rest will be tied into the property taxes. That can be, if the business is sold, it can be assumed by the new owner. And it has a window, whatever it is, 10, 15, 20-year window in which those fees can be paid back. So the county has a guarantee that the income is going to be paid regardless of who owns the property, because it's attached to the deed. So there are ways.
I guess the question then is, because in your district there are 3 candidates, correct? Now, if people are looking at those, because I understand that all 3 candidates are registered Republican.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's
so
correct.
I guess
there's no diversity in party. They're all Republicans.
So I guess if you're trying to separate yourself, delineate yourself from some of the candidates, what do you think some of the differences are? Why should they pick you versus brand X or brand Y?
Right. I have 2 opponents. I should point it out. There's 3 people in the race. One of my opponents is a career planner. That's the incumbent, and I mean, it seems to be where his heart lies. I don't think that he's a bad person. I think that I think all of us have been in a position before when we were young, especially where we might have had a job that we took and we got called into the manager's office and they told us it wasn't working out. Not because we're a bad person, but we just weren't a right fit, possibly for that job. So I think the guy that's in there right now maybe isn't really that horrible of a person, but it's just not a right fit. His heart seems to be in the planning part, and and I think maybe we could use them in the county planning department perhaps after the election. The other candidate is an attorney. So with somebody practicing law, I have friends who practice law, and there are some attorneys who have morals. So I don't want to discredit the whole profession by any means, but you have to think to yourself, do you want to put your trust in this person who is an attorney to be your supervisor? And number two is, if you're willing to put your trust in that person to have an attorney be your supervisor, how much time is he going to be spending on being a supervisor, and how much time is he going to spend on his practice? I mean, we have to be honest. I mean, the supervisor position makes less than the job I left as a school teacher.
Right.
So for someone to assume that position, I mean, it's a very narrow field of people who would be willing to do the job for the amount of money that they're being offered to be paid. And so, for me, the candidate that's running against me is an attorney. I would think that he's probably going to be involved in his law practice to some extent for income generation. So.
Well, I guess as a last little piece going out, I guess what would you like people to remember? I mean, as far as we're getting ready to do that ballot, we just did a little, the differences. What would you like to leave them with?
I suppose I'd like to leave them with, when I hear people say what they want, when I speak with people and ask them, well, what would you like to see in a candidate? And I think in terms of in the past, being that this is the first time I've ever run for a political election, what are the things that I look for in a candidate in the past? And it all comes back to someone who possesses not only skill, but the ability to be honest, to have a strong moral background, someone that people can depend on and trust. And I think that I've demonstrated that to the people in the community who know me through my service as a school teacher at Calaveras High. And I encourage people to check out my website to see the remarks that were left on there by those who have supervised me. And also I encourage them to meet with me in person if they'd like, to ask me any questions they'd like. And that's my commitment to them, that they may not like what I say to them in person, but my guarantee is that I will always be honest with them, and that I will be upfront, and they will know where I'm coming from. My decisions will be made based on facts, and I will be able to back up, my decisions. And like I said, you're never going to make 100% of people happy, but I think at least if they know that you're honest and that you've made some kind of effort, to research these decisions before they're made, and that you're protecting their rights, especially in these economic hard times, their rights to have a job and their property rights and all those things. As a history teacher prior, with a degree in history, I'm a firm believer in protecting the Constitution and protecting people's rights. I mean, that's what America is all about, and I think that we have a bright future ahead of us.
And one thing we've said to some of the candidates and stuff as well is for those of us who follow the political arena closely in the county, I want to say thank you for running, because it takes a huge commitment to throw yourself into the arena. And I think that people shouldn't underestimate that. They're looking at it. I think that we owe all the people who run as candidates a debt of gratitude, and it's not something that you undertake lightly. And it takes a commitment most people probably would underestimate. They think that this is something that's not to be taken lightly, that you even threw your hat in the ring. So.
It is. It's a difficult one. One of the questions that I first got was, why in the heck are you doing this? What would possibly motivate you to?
Right.
The best one I got was somebody said, why would you want to be an underpaid small town politician? And I said, well, the fact of the matter is, you can trace my history a number of years back, and prior to the run for this, in those years I was a small town underpaid school teacher.
Right.
So to me, the only difference is that I'll be serving the greater community as a whole, as compared to my students, which is a smaller group. But my passion and my dedication is the same, and that is that I will serve the people, and that they can count on me for honest response.
Thank you for running.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for spending a few minutes with us.
All right, you're welcome.